Hello, welcome to the Flicks Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today, our episode covers Netflix's 97th film. It's the 2018 action thriller, How It Ends. It's directed by David M. Rosenthal, and it stars Theo James, Forrest Whitaker, Grace Dove, Kat Graham, and Mark O'Brien. I'm Jesse, and I am here with my co-host MJ. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Another sort of like I felt this one's a bit more sci-fi maybe than just an action thriller.
Definitely.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's more adventure than anything else. Adventure, action, a
yeah.
touch of sci-fi. Is it sci-fi? Ooh, who knows?
Who knows? Oh, yeah, that's a very good question that I'm sure we'll ask each other at some stage today. So, yes, if you want to watch this film called How It Ends, please go watch and then come back and listen because we will spoil this film early on. And yeah, I'm ready to start off with our fast flicks, where we each give our own little summary of what this film's about. So, MJ, what's your fast flicks?
Let's do it. So, How It Ends is an end of the world story about a journey of a man driving across the country to find his girlfriend.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm very very similar. I've just said it's two men though that try to get back across country during this seismic event to find the same person, their daughter and their lover. Um,
Nice.
yeah, but yeah, there's not much else to say about this film because that is literally what this film is about.
Well, the first like 5 or 10 minutes, because I did, we know I don't know anything about the film going into it. I didn't read the synopsis on this one, which I have started to do, and I probably will do more of. But um, I was obviously assuming it was going to be like an end of the world story because it's called How It
Yeah.
Ends, and I was like, maybe it's not. And I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, no, nothing's happening. And then when that phone call happened or whatever it was, when there was like an earthquake or something, I was like, here we go. It just took me a while to really get into it, and then all of a sudden it did become an end of the world story, which I was happy with.
Good. Okay. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I'm stuck on this one. This one's got lots of thoughts going through my mind about exactly where it sits and what it was trying to do. And
Well,
I'm
that's why
hoping
we
you're
do this
gonna.
podcast.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I was about to say. I'm hoping that you're gonna guide me through this challenging time in understanding a film about the end of the world. Um,
Even if I don't help you, it'll be fun to talk about
I can guarantee you're going to help me with some things because there are some things in this that I need some help with. All right, let's have a chat about anything that you've been able to work out about how this film was made or put together. Have you got any interesting facts for us?
Well, it took a while to get made. Is probably the main thing that I figured out. So it was a 2010 blacklist script, and I'm not going to really count that as part of the production. But in 2011, um, it was announced that Sierra and Affinity was developing this film off the 2010 blacklist. So it didn't. It was only on the blacklist for a year. Um, Blacklist, for those who don't know, is basically a list of screenplays that weren't made into a film in that particular year that people think were pretty good screenplays. Um, so that was March 19, 2011 was when they announced that. Um, and then on December 2015, so what's that? Over 4 years, 4.5 years after, um, David M. Rosenthal, the director, came on board. Sierra Pictures, which had developed the project up until that point, also jumped on board to produce the film, and they were going to fully finance it as well. So this is December in 2015. And then January 2017, so that's just over a year, I guess. On January 2017, Netflix acquired the worldwide rights to the film. And then by June 2017, Theo James, Forrest Whitaker, Kat Graham were all cast in the film. Uh, and basically from August, September, principal photography, and they started filming it. So from a 2010 Blacklist film to a 2011 announcement that it was going to be made into a film, 2015 we got the director and the financiers, and then Netflix comes on in January, and then by August, September they're filming the thing. So I think from what I can gather, a lot of it was filmed in Winnipeg in Canada, but a little bit also done in Manitoba in Canada, which I'm not familiar with. And there was also a scene filmed in Chicago as well.
Yes, yeah, great because I thank you for filling me in because I didn't look into any of that stuff. So it's an interesting story that it took 7 or so years before from the idea
Yeah,
to sort of hitting the screen or the small screen as we should call it.
And it kind of
The
had that feel to it, right? It didn't feel like someone's just written this cheap, nasty script. We've got it put together and slapped on it, and in 24 months we've got a film. Like there's a bit more to this. It had that kind of feel to it, that it was a bigger concept. So I do understand it, but obviously it took a while for anyone to get interested in it until good old Netflix did their thing and took it off someone else's hands and distributed it internationally, and here we are.
Yeah, this it sort of had the feel to, those sort of direct to DVD sort of film that you may have got at that stage, and maybe, yeah, this is probably one of those perfect little areas that Netflix sort of sit in, where they can pick up a film that's probably not going to get a theatrical release, and there's probably not a lot of video going to DVDs, or those video on demand are sort of that smaller little niche market. So good on them for sort of getting this to a few more eyeballs, I guess.
Yeah, particularly when you can completely understand this concept was meant to be a big theatrical
Thanks.
experience. No doubt
Mm,
whatsoever. But interestingly, by the time, let's say, Forrest Whitaker came on board, who is the big star of the film, um, it was already a Netflix film. So I like to know that. It's not like he was duped out of another big acting credit.
mm.
He knew what he was doing by the time he'd signed on, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah. The only sort of little things, there's a scene in this film where they're at this sort of water slide, and that was shot at this Wet and Wild sort of theme park north of Winnipeg in Canada, and the water slide, since the film's been filmed, has been demolished. So I thought that was a cool little thing. We've got some evidence of history in this film of a water park that the slide no longer exists.
For what it's
Um,
worth, it didn't look terribly functional by the time that it was in this film.
It didn't, did it? The and I'm just reading about this film. I just found this little summary by, it's a website called This Is Barry. It's this dude that writes these little reviews, I guess.
Right.
And I thought this was a perfect way of summing up this film. He goes, the majority of the movie shows these two characters, Tom and Will, take a road trip where they bond over being robbed, being in an accident, being mugged, being in an accident, being held up by a woman, and eventually leaves them being lost, being funny, and being dead. I just thought that was a nice little summary that I didn't want to steal from my fast flicks, but I thought it was
What was the
a
second
cool little
last one?
way.
Being funny.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting into our early thoughts too early.
I,
I just
I thought you meant like when they had a bit of a laugh together maybe at one point, but I think it was generally they
yeah.
weren't bonding over much laughs.
No, not at all. So yeah, you mentioned before that this came out on Netflix on the 13th of July 2018. So
Hmm.
nearly 2 years ago. It had 4 nominations for awards,
Oh, did
which I
it?
thought was a little bit interesting. They are awards ceremonies that I haven't heard of, to be honest.
Okay,
The
that's all right.
the
Something though.
first one was the Sin Europa Award in 2019. It was nominated for the best visual effects in the international competition, as well as best sound effects, best editing as well. So 3 awards it was nominated for at these awards. I couldn't find anything else about that award ceremony. But the other one that I could
International
find,
section. I see. You don't know much about this ceremony. I was going to say,
yeah,
what
and
does international mean? Does that mean
yeah.
it's not an American film award, or is this a Canadian film? I don't know.
Well, that leads in well to the other award it was nominated for, and that was it's the ACTRA Awards, which is the like the Canadian
Oh,
equivalent
okay.
of the Oscars, I guess. So the award for that one was a nomination for the best emerging performance from Grace Dove, who plays the character Ricky.
Okay.
So yeah, so that was the one award that one was nominated for.
Oh, there you go. That's cool.
Yeah. What about some consensus for this one? What have you been able to find out?
Before we get to consensus, this movie had
Yes,
a budget.
we haven't had one in a while.
We don't often get budgets on Netflix films because Netflix doesn't need to disclose that information, and obviously they don't have box office, so there's nothing to compare it with. But this movie allegedly had a $20 million budget.
Okay.
Now, I've done a bit of research, as I like to do, just to find out some similar $20 million movies, and I've tried to go with more recent ones just so you can get an idea of what you can do with $20 million. $21 million last year did the movie Hustlers. Also did Velvet Buzzsaw, which is another Netflix movie that we haven't covered yet on this podcast, but
No.
interesting to know that that's a similar kind of budget.
I'm looking
Now,
forward to covering that one because that's a Dan Gilroy film, a director that I quite enjoy watching his content. So listen out in a couple of years' time when we do that.
you don't mind Jake Gyllenhaal as well
I do
from
love
time to
Jake
time.
Gyllenhaal and Renee Russo's in that as well. So it's a nice little coming together of
Cocktail
two
of
different.
Jesse.
It's great. All right, what
But
else you got?
Raiders of the Lost Ark and Beauty and the Beast, obviously two big films, but different generations, so it's not really comparing apples with apples. But in the last few years, a budget of $20 million was Us, the Jordan Peele horror thriller,
Mm-hmm.
The Conjuring, Wonder, Glass, Good Boys from last year, and The Descendants. Just a few. So you can do a fair bit with $20 million if you do it right.
I wouldn't mind seeing the breakdown on the spreadsheet for where that money went to, and my guess is that a majority of that went to the special effects,
Oh yeah,
because apart from Forrest Whitaker, and a lot of those films that you did mention had two or three pretty high build sort of
yep.
actors and actresses. So I reckon, yeah, the breakdown for this one would have been special effects for sure.
But let's not pretend that $20 million is still a small budget for a film. We're not going to pretend like you can make a big action sci-fi with $20 million every day of the week. So it's not like they've got a huge budget. Like if you look at a movie like The Good Boys, or sorry, Good Boys and The Descendants, like they're really like Good Boys is a funny movie. Descendants is a really good movie, but it's not like they're bursting the bank with what they need to do with it. So
Nah, George Clooney would have taken up a big chunk of the Descendants, wouldn't he?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, yeah. Well, I'm glad that we had a comparison for some similar films. Since consensus time, I reckon it's time we do this one now. So, what have you got for the consensus?
Yeah, it's not hugely popular, to put it nicely. It's sitting at a 5 out of 10 on IMDb with 42,000 ratings. So a lot of people have watched this movie. Like there was interest in this movie, and we talk about with Netflix because they're not guided by box office. If you're getting 42,000 people on IMDb alone choosing to rate it, you must have pretty decent numbers on the film. So you'd almost view it as a success,
Yeah.
regardless of that 5 out of 10. But on Letterboxd, it's a 2.1 out of 5. A lot more of a lot less popular, and
Mm.
only 8,500 ratings. So as we say, Letterboxd, our more filmy audience, not even interested
Very.
in really checking this one out. And if they did, they
Yeah.
didn't really like it.
Yeah, if they checked it out, they've gone out of their way to sort of push it down to that lower end of the scale.
Yeah.
The, the Google users were, this is probably one of the lowest ones I think I've seen on Google users. Only 43% liked this one. So that's definitely on
What?
the low end.
Even the bad films get
Yeah,
80% on that.
correct. So obviously people have gone out of their way to give this one a negative rating.
There is a lot of
Ro-
hate on this film online. It's like people were really annoyed that it wasn't that good. That's people are annoyed at the film for just being a film.
Yep. Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes, the critics didn't like this one either. It sits at 17%. On 18 reviews, and the audience even had it lower at 16% on nearly 50, on nearly 1,500 reviews. So very, very low from Rotten Tomatoes as
There's
well.
just something about this film, and just looking around and reading reviews, people just were just really annoyed at it. Like, it's one thing to have a film that people don't like, but people were annoyed that this film was a film for some reason. I can't quite put my finger on it, to be honest.
Well, that probably leads us into our early thoughts. Because I might go first for this one,
Go.
because I can probably sympathize a little bit with some of those people who have had a little bit of negativity towards this one. The To me, that this was a hot steaming pile of mess.
Oh
I
no.
really I really did want to like this, and I kept trying. I really wanted to get into it, and like the performances to me, they were like in like this cruise control, which made it really hard for me to feel any urgency or care as to why or if these men would make it back to where they wanted to be or find what they wanted to find. And yeah, I'm sitting on the negative side for this one. What about you, MJ?
Well, I worry that people, for some reason, and I'm not putting you in this category yet, just expected this to be amazing. And I don't know why people kind of thought that. So for me, I kind of like singular adventure movies, like a journey that you go where you know what the destination is, you don't know quite what's going to happen in between getting there. I just found something really comfortable in that kind of storytelling. So in that respect, it felt comfortable watching it.
Yeah.
Secondly, and this might have helped me, I know a guy who's seen it, and when he found out that we're doing this podcast on Netflix original movies, the first thing he said to me was how annoyed he was at this movie. So my expectations were pretty low going into it, and I was expecting it to be what you just said, a hot pile of steaming mess or whatever. So I kind of settled into it a lot more seamlessly than I thought I would with my expectations going into it. Like, it has got a lot of flaws, and there are a lot of questions that you probably can't answer, and I'm sure we'll try to do so on this episode. But I understand the negative sentiment. I don't understand why people are so mad at it. I read a review, and it came up really high on Google, just basically talking about all these problems with it, and half of which just weren't even part of the film. They'd just sort of taken this perception of what had happened and got it all wrong. So, for the most part, I enjoyed the journey, and I thought it filled the time pretty well. A journey of driving a car for an hour and 45-minute movie, whatever, is tough, but they had some pretty cool scenes in between that and some of the stuff they had to deal with. So I didn't mind it.
Okay, good. Well, hopefully that'll lead for a better discussion because I'm probably going to be pretty harsh on this one,
Yeah,
and
good, good.
and I think the my what I'll do is I'll try and use actual evidence from the film to explain what I had issues with, rather than
Yeah,
coming
please do.
hopefully coming up with these ideas that maybe didn't need to be interpreted. So I'm looking forward to this. This should be good.
Yep. All right, let's do it.
All right, characters. Hit us off with your first character, MJ.
Well, I think with Will, the thing that works well with Will is that I clearly found myself in his shoes, and that's how they set him up. He's completely ill-equipped to be dealing with this situation, but he's not an idiot, and he's adaptable enough to make it work. It took him a little bit of time to settle into that hero role. Whether he got the full-fledged hero status by the end of it, I don't know, but that steady transition for me actually felt pretty true. That he started off completely out of his depth, and as time went on, he slowly took the reins from Tom, and then eventually was able to fend for himself and kind of just make it all happen. So the whole movie, I'm just sitting in his shoes and thinking, okay, I'm in this situation. What would I do? Okay, if Will can do that, maybe I can do that. And I think that's a really helpful storytelling device.
Yeah, I'm so glad because I didn't think that at all, and I can completely get where you're going with that because that all makes sense. Like it makes sense that I think if you were in his shoes straight away, then you're gonna feel that journey with him. Where, um, yeah, I'm almost the complete opposite because I saw him as this guy that wants to be seen to be doing the right thing the whole time, but I really knew so little about him other than he was expecting a child, and so I didn't really care for him. And with that being the only thing that I knew, I didn't really. I didn't care what happened to him. I probably would have preferred the movie ending with him arriving in Seattle and everyone being dead, and that was the end of the movie. And then I could have been like, oh, cool, that was good. But it sort of went on for another 15, 20 minutes, and it didn't really add to him at all for me. His actions once he was reunited with his partner Sam.
I do
Yeah,
agree with those stakes. I don't think they were properly developed because I similarly didn't care for him that much. I mean, like, I didn't want him to die, and let's be honest, he was never going to die in the first hour and a bit anyway. Like, even if he had of, like, we knew that he was the one that was behind the steering wheel, so that was fine. But you're right. I do think they missed a beat with making you care about him really getting to see his partner.
yeah.
And that's why I think I just was fine just settling into this action adventure movie where I was actually driving the car instead of Will.
Cool.
So that
All right, Tom. So Tom's his partner Sam's father, um, and they set him up as this sort of serviceman who's done nearly 30 years serving
mm,
his country, and is sort of as soon as you're introduced to him, he seems like this sort of no one's going to break him. He's sick of people not working hard and all these people that are dreamers. So he's sort of like this guy that wants to have sort of a plan in action, who
mm.
obviously protects his daughter and wants the best for his daughter as well. But I thought Forrest Whitaker's just is better than this. It was just like him playing this grumpy old man, and he didn't. There was no light and shade in his performance. It was just yeah, man. I was very disappointed in this character.
I definitely don't think there was no light and shade in this character. Because Tom was when things got tough, Tom was a real badass. And early on, you feel really safe with him in charge, despite the fact that you knew that things were going to eventually become out of his control. And eventually, from a story perspective, they just weakened him enough to make you feel like you're kind of fending for yourself without the support of this, retired James Bond type character. Um, but the way he still the way he talked to people and the way he reasoned with people was just a completely different side of him. He lost that hardened edge, and he had this nous about him, and like he realized very quickly the dire situation they were in. Even when he offered Ricky $2,000 to come in the car with him, he was so aware that $2,000 in this world actually means nothing right now. It doesn't matter. He cottoned onto that before I think the audience even knew that, and that kind of the badass combined with the sort of savvy side of and what he should be doing. I didn't mind. I'm not saying it was he was the best character I've ever seen. I'm certainly not saying it was an Oscar. Oh, for a man who's won an Oscar
Yeah.
performance from Forrest Whitaker. But I think there was a little bit more to Tom than just hitting cruise control or whatever.
Because all I got from him was that one scene in the car where him and Will have that conversation, and that was like to me the only sort of time that I saw some sort of turn in him. Because every other situation, it was just him playing that hard line that he gets what he wants when he wants. Like with the paying the money for the car, he was happy to just keep paying because he's not used to people saying no to him or people being scared of him or people being hesitant towards him. And the same with when they rock up at the town and the police, he's not going to allow people to say no to him. And I don't know, I just felt I didn't like that was just him the whole way until
Mm,
that one scene in the car where he sort of opened up a tiny little bit. And yeah, I don't know, maybe it was because like you said before, that maybe this whole situation of what they're actually facing, like we don't know what this situation in the world or what's
mm.
actually happening, and it doesn't yeah, I don't know, I think I'm just frustrated completely with him.
I think I used him as a barometer most of the time with whatever
Yeah,
was going on. He knew, and he knew before they wanted the audience to know, and I think that was kind of cool. But yeah, again, nothing special. But I'm sad that you've probably missed out on a little bit with that because there's a little bit more
yeah.
to Tom than just
I
that.
just
And
yeah yeah
it's not to
it
say
was
that those
hard.
parts of him weren't part of his character, because you're right. He is a guy who gets what he wants, and he uses force to get what he wants, and he uses nous to get what he wants. But there was also nuances in development where when he eventually stopped the car for Ricky, even though when he said when they stopped that car, they found those dead people, get back in the car. He was still right to get back in the car, and he still stopped to get her. He softened on her. He tried to reason with her when she went out, which was a different side of him that we hadn't quite seen. You saved us, kind of thing. So I don't
But he
know.
still
There
made
was,
he still made a point to her that I wouldn't have stopped for you. It was only Will that like made me stop for you. Like
but
that. Why
an hour
like
ago
why
he
did he?
wouldn't have listened to Will.
But why did he
Uh,
need to say that? If we could have just accepted that, okay, he's changed this a little bit. You don't have to say that out loud to her. Why does she need to know that?
yeah, I guess it's
Oh.
still the hardened side to him that you talk about, though. I don't think he
And
loses
maybe
that.
no, and maybe if we had have known, like you said, he's clicked onto what's going on with the world. Maybe if the filmmakers had have given us an opportunity to actually be fed a little bit of what actually was going on, then maybe I would have been able to connect with him a bit better and what he was feeling. But I still feel like that there was no resolution or any idea to the audience actually what was happening in the world.
Yeah, I
So
didn't want to know though. I That was one of the better
yeah,
parts of the film
okay,
for me though.
all right,
I,
well,
I
yeah,
enjoy that we didn't know.
okay,
And I'm not
we
saying
might
Tom
talk about that
knew.
later.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying I'm not saying he knew. I'm just saying he understood that this was pretty damn serious. That he could just say he's going to give someone $2,000, and in the scheme of things, $2,000 means nothing.
no, nothing. All right. Well, we briefly touched on Ricky, so
Yeah.
I'll take the opportunity. I felt she was the character that had the most potential in this film.
Yep.
Come along for this ride, but I was completely confused and a little bit shocked with the way that they tried to make this slow reveal that she was Native American, I guess, and these little assumptions about talking about the plains being named after Indians, and then
Mm,
she specifically says when she runs off with no explanation of where she's going, she says we'll survive longer than you, and
mm,
obviously meaning like her people. But to me, I was just like, what? And then we don't see her again. We don't know
yep.
if she's safe. We don't know what's going on. Like this was a missed opportunity to have. Obviously she was nominated for most outbreak or emerging performance or whatever it was. Like she needed to be in the film more than she was.
This is where I 100% agree with you, because I'm all cool with that nomination, to be honest. I thought she added a heap to the story, and I think she did a bang up job sort of adding that sense of camaraderie that it does get forced upon people. And it's not until you take a step back and you realize that you're kind of not okay with everything that's going on. Um, but I hated the fact that they just let her walk off, and then we heard nothing again.
Yeah. Well,
Because I kind of like the idea, and this is just a weird thing, similar to me with like I kind of don't mind adventure movies. I kind of like the idea of going on a journey and picking up people along the way. I don't know why. I just always have. I think it works in storytelling. And when they got her, I was happy. And when they dropped at that other girl's, the other lady's house where they had a shower and stuff, I thought they were going to bring her along too, and I was all for it. They didn't do that, and then they got rid of
no.
Ricky. So I agree,
Yeah.
massive. What the hell?
Good. Any other characters that you wanted to talk about?
I do want to talk briefly about Jeremiah, which is the
Yep.
neighbor at the end. And this is the more I've been thinking. I didn't quite get it at the time, but the more I've been thinking about it, the more maybe it doesn't fit with the tone of the film. But I kind of this character kind of works a lot more for me because I think he's just some creepy dude who had the hots for Sam, and he started to settle into this kind of last guy on earth type situation that he ends up with her, and he's completely ruined by Will's insanely unlikely arrival. And you get the impression, and this is what I've been thinking about more. You get the impression he's always had a thing for Sam, right? Like he's this creepy neighbor across the hall, and as soon as the earthquake comes, he's obviously like, "Hey, come with me quickly." And the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. It didn't really work for me during watching the film, but now I think about it, does that add up to you? Do you think that's what he was?
Well, I interpreted it as he was her neighbor in this place she'd escaped to, not from the original place, because Will didn't know him, did he, when he rocked up?
Well, but remember, she wrote on the wall at their apartment, "Come to this place."
This
So he must
address.
have been
Okay,
like,
so
"Hey, come with me to my, camping
holiday house or
shack."
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just the way that they made him sus straight off, like you knew that he was never going to get along with Will, and just some of the conversations between the two, and in particular the scenes where they walk out to
Mm.
the woods at the end. Like I was like, yeah, I don't know, I don't even know where he fits. He's just
Yeah. No,
this
I
character that
agree
wasn't needed.
that they didn't do it well, but I think they could. I don't have the answer, but they could have done this better to make it work because that concept. The more I think about it, but I had to work too hard for it to really make sense. I
Hmm.
get it though because here he is thinking, "Holy crap! I've got this smoking hot girl just by pure chance because I am, if you're the last guy on earth kind of thing. That's my situation. I'm in it. I did it." And then her husband comes out like, "This guy was on the other side of the country. How did this guy get here? I'm not cool with it." So
Hmm.
I don't know how it actually works out in the whole scheme of things with this film, but when I think about it, the mom like we had to talk about it. That's probably my
Yeah,
main point.
true. Okay. The director David M. Rosenthal. Have you got anything about him that you found interesting?
No, nothing in
No.
particular.
I had 11 directing credits for like shorts and TV and a couple of films, but I hadn't heard of any of them.
Mm.
So I don't know what that sort of says about him, I guess. But yeah, I mean, good on him putting this one together, and hopefully, gets a couple more shots.
Yeah, that's it.
Moving forward. Yeah. Okay, time for us to talk about some scenes. So I want you like this one more than me. So give me some things that stood out in this one for you.
Yeah, and as look, I like this more than you, but I didn't love this film. I just don't understand the anger. Like hate and anger are two different things. People could dislike a film, but people are just angry at this film, and I don't quite get it. So, seeds, I got a few. There's the very opening scene. They're getting the ultrasound, and it
Hmm.
comes straight after you see the title of how it ends. And the first thing that pops into our mind is how it begins because there's a baby being born, and I kind of like that juxtaposition. We didn't really go into it any further than that, but
Hmm.
that was obviously deliberate, and I think it worked quite nicely.
So is it saying that maybe the film ends with the birth of the baby? Mm.
Well, this is the story of how it ends, right?
Ends, yeah.
And ironically, we're starting the story with the very very beginning of
Very,
something.
very.
So.
Nice.
I said this before. It's not a scene, but I do like that they constantly allude to something bigger happening, but don't actually reveal it because it did keep me interested in what could be an otherwise pretty slow part of the narrative when they're driving a car.
But
Um,
did you feel let down that there was no actual explanation? Because I felt let down that you have all these things in the background and you don't actually give the audience the credit of actually explaining what's been going on.
I have my theory, and I don't think I need to be told what happened because I walk out of that movie and I tell you what I think happened, and I don't. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's what I took out of it, and we can get
Okay.
to that if you want. But that movie ended, and I was pretty clear with what was happening, and whether I'm wrong or not, that's fine. But I wasn't left wanting because that ambiguity made me make up my mind, and I made it up like instantly. Ah, okay, this
Yeah.
is what happened.
Okay, good.
So I wasn't left wanting. And again, like these movies are more about the journey. Like, see, like compare this movie to Cloverfield, which you like, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Cloverfield for me has a far worse ending than this. And I know we're probably jumping ahead,
Yeah.
but Cloverfield doesn't really leave it ambiguous. And then it just introduces something brand new that all of a sudden this is how it ended. And I didn't tell you anything about that, but it's over. Whereas at least this, you can make up your own mind in a sense. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Definitely, definitely. We'll probably talk about this a bit later on, will we? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
certainly wasn't.
yeah,
Most of these scenes are all quite similar, but firstly, I like the scene with the fake cop. Just didn't realize that we were going that intense so early, and it was pretty cool. And similarly, when those guys stole that gas off them, and then they shot them off the road, and the car exploded, that was a pretty gripping scene. And I liked it because Ricky really integrated herself onto the team by shooting the tire and everything.
mm.
It got overridden by her leaving, so that kind of bothered me a little bit. At the time, I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. I love this trio."
Yeah, it would have been cool if
Um,
the three of them kept going and destroying things.
I still don't know why she didn't, but anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
Um, and the bridge scene was awesome, clever. I thought the action was good in it. Yeah, it kind of highlighted these little, I don't know what you want to call them, little clans or
Mm.
colonies or whatever that are just kind of taking over cities. It highlighted that kind of Planet of the Apes feel to it, and I thought it was a cool scene.
Nice, nice.
That's and I've got a scene which I liked and then didn't like, so I'll put it in here.
Yeah,
And you mentioned this before. I thought the intensity in the scene where Will killed Jeremiah, I thought that intensity builded really nicely because, as you sort of said, they set it up really clearly that this Jeremiah probably wanted Will out of the picture. And when they're walking out to the woods, you know something's going to happen. And maybe because I was a little bit more invested, I got that, heart
feeling.
rising
Yeah,
kind of feeling. But I do preface the fact that I don't know if the story needed that.
it was
It
just
was,
like
it,
we can have this switch that we can try and confuse the audience and think that Will's going to die when you knew it wasn't going to happen. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it introduced an interesting character, which I think they probably didn't quite get right. But I certainly felt the intensity in the scene, and that was a plus. But I still, that scene finished with me being like, "What the hell was that guy all about?" And
mm.
just quickly gets in the car. It's like, "Where's Jeremiah? Oh, I killed him." Okay, off
They're
they
off.
go. So that was pretty shitty, but I did like the emotion in it.
Good. All right. So the only thing that I've got is I thought a lot of the cinematography was really good. I thought there were a
Oh,
lot
it was
of
beautiful,
nice
wasn't it? Yeah.
there were a lot of really nice shots of the city and the country, and I thought that especially in sort of apocalyptic style films, that this is one of the highlights a lot of the time, and I think they did a really good job with that. Yeah. All right. So, what are some things that you didn't
Are you
like?
serious? You didn't like one thing.
Nah, I haven't got anything else. I'm sorry. I went over my notes multiple times. I'm like, what can I pull out that I actually liked, and I had nothing else.
Wow.
And usually
Okay,
I have
maybe I'm wrong.
usually
Maybe the anger online is warranted, and
and
I'm
I
just too
haven't read
forgiving.
I haven't read any angry reviews or anything. Like, this is me just going off my notes and what I took on this one. So when you said there are a lot of people angry, I was like, oh, cool. This is going to give me a bit of reading afterwards.
I tell you, the best thing that could have happened to me was when my mate said that how angry he was with this film, because I'm like,
It
okay, this is gonna suck, and I've got to be prepared for it. And I got it there. I'm like, oh, it's
wasn't
fine.
that bad. Good. What are some things that
Scenes
you
that I
do
didn't
like?
like.
Yeah.
There's definitely a few of these as well, but after that, when Will goes to Sam's parents' house to basically ask for her hand in marriage, and he gets a pretty frosty reception from them, gets basically kicked out of their house, as if he wouldn't call or text Sam to chat through that situation afterwards. Like, she
Okay.
doesn't
All right.
like flick him a note saying, "Hey, how'd tonight go?" Like, he just goes back to his hotel and sleeps. I don't know.
Okay, well, because like that was one of the, I've got that as well, because I just thought that whole dinner scene. I almost thought it was pointless, but that was maybe because I wasn't expecting him to ask for her hand in marriage, but I'm glad that you've said that, because to me, I was like trying to work out, like, my thinking was that he went over there to say that she was pregnant, and but why, if that was the case, why did he go over by
No,
himself without her? And but
they
obviously,
talked about it beforehand when he was leaving. He basically
oh
said,
yeah,
"I'm going to go ask her. Yes, your dad's scared." She's like, "That's all right. It's better than finding out that I'm pregnant." Like, so
yeah,
he was
okay,
going to ask us hand in
I must have
marriage.
switched off really early on this one, because I was,
That was like 13 seconds in.
yeah, missed that one. All right, good, keep going.
Um, when Tom was trying to get his phone working at one point in the car, his wallpaper was a photo of his daughter in like a model shot. It just did.
Really.
She looked great. Don't get me wrong. It was a great photo of her, but not the kind of photo that a dad would have of his daughter on as his wallpaper. Just, they should have done a lot better.
He's protective of her, so obviously Google
I
searches
get
her.
that
And
the idea was that the idea was that we wanted to be like, he cares about his daughter. It's even his wallpaper, but like it's like they've just grabbed one of her photo shoots, the actress's photo shoots, and whacked it on there. And we kind of touched on this a little bit, that the scene by the fire at the end, that animosity between Will and Jeremiah. I know they wanted, as you said, set up that rift between them, but Jeremiah's theory, which was weird and stupid, but why would Will get so annoyed by it? It just annoyed me that it blew up, and it's like, okay, we've got 6 minutes to get these two to understand that they're going to kill each other, and we got to make it really quick, and it didn't work at all. I thought it was silly.
And it was almost an opportunity for Jeremiah to sort of give you a little bit more about what's actually going on in the world, because he had a few of these theories that he throws out, and and yeah, they shut it down so quickly. And I think this was the part where he had this line where he said, in the end, it doesn't matter. We all have to live right. And I was like, yeah, that whole conversation and the setup, it was just, yeah, it was just obviously you knew that that's what they were building it for, was that blow
Mm.
up. But yeah, I agree. I think that was
And
a
if you're Will, and mind you, Will's in a much better position to have an opinion because he's just been across the country. But if you're Will, you'd welcome any kind of opinion, right? You haven't spoken to anyone. You don't know what's going on yourself. You might have your theories, but you'd listen to anyone who's got a theory. So it just seemed
mm,
like a weird reaction. And
mm.
the final thing I'm going to put it in here, even though I go through chronologically, but I needed closure on Ricky, and that really pisses me off that we didn't get it at all.
Mm,
So
I
I
agree.
just
Yeah,
had to bring that up.
good. All right. So the start where Sam's back in Seattle and Will's in Chicago, and she wakes him up with a call, and
Mm.
he's in this bit of a rush for being late for his flight, and she's like, please call me when you get to the airport. And he gets up out of bed and looks out the window, and he's actually staying at the airport.
Yeah.
And so there's no need to be worrying about missing your flight. And why does he need to call her? He's literally there. Like, that just blew me straight away. I was like, what the hell? Like,
I thought, well, for some reason, I thought he was, and I thought this would come back. I thought he was lying to her about staying at the airport. That's why he's like, "Oh, I'm in such a rush. I'll call you when I get to the airport." Was his way of being like, I don't know why he would lie,
yeah.
and now, like, I'd forgotten about it. So now that you bring it up, it's like the whole thing's pretty insane.
Yeah, it was quite, yeah. And then the follow on from when Will goes over to his in-laws sort of house to see Tom and Paula, and they're packing their bags within minutes of the power going out. Like,
Yeah,
like
Tom was a cluey man.
I was, Chicago's a fair way from the West Coast. Like, and they'd made this big deal that it happened on the West Coast. Like, and why couldn't Paula have just stayed in the house? Why did she need to evacuate their house as well? Because apart from the power going out, Chicago seemed like a pretty okayish sort of place.
He
Uh,
knew. Tommy
mm,
knew.
I thought that this really annoyed me. Will getting out of the car multiple times for police officers, for people just standing in the middle of the road, trying to take their gas every single time. Like, once was enough. It got repetitive very, very quickly. I
The
thought that,
lady pleading was, that was tough because
uh,
Ricky got out too.
yeah, but yeah, okay.
I know it's a dog eat dog
Yeah,
world when
yeah,
when the world's ending. It's
yeah.
just part of the themes actually.
Like, how serious are they trying to get to Seattle? Will and
At
Tom,
the
they
expense
drive
of
up.
your humanity, though, like that's
Yeah.
it's a tough one.
it's tough when you don't see the humanity in any of these characters, so you don't really care. There's a scene where Will and Tom drive up to this military line, and then they're not letting anyone through, and just because Tom says I did service, they're like, oh cool, we'll let you through. Like fuck off. That was like, oh my god. I was like, seriously.
It was handled very respectfully, and they were real officers, they were real soldiers in that
Yeah,
scene.
I did read that.
Um,
They're on the road so much in this, and there's one scene where they drive past this sign that's on the side of the road, and it says, what was it? It was like a maximum security prison or something. And I was like, oh, cool, this is cool. No power, prisoners are going to be out on the road, and all you get is a prisoner pretending he's a cop. Like that gave me nothing at all. I
what
really
else did
frustrated
you
me.
want?
I wanted like a whole mass of them on the road or something, try and rock the car or something. I don't know. I just thought one person out of a
That's
whole
pretty
group
cool
was.
though. I put that in my good seeds. That what I just assumed it was a cop, and when you realize it wasn't a cop, and then obviously they got away from him initially with a big smash in the car, and then they crash. I thought it was a cool scene. I would have
Good.
rather that than 10 people rocking their car.
I don't know. I just wanted something. Like Ricky, like we spoke about, paying her to go west with him, and like I did not, but like why would she want to go to where this incident's supposed to be? I know she makes this idea, I want to be a rapper, and sort of plays it off as a joke. So even if that was her actual motive, and she didn't want to, it seemed lame and wanted to laugh it off. Right now is not the right time to be going to LA for your work. If all
Yeah,
this stuff's happening, it
it
just didn't
didn't
sit right.
seem that safe where she was though. I think there was something going on there. Remember when they were leaving and she sort of said just
Yeah, she's like
ignore it.
drive. Yeah, just
Yeah.
there's too many little gaps. They've when they rock up and visit this Meg person's house and they pick up supplies, and we see her upset about her husband and swirling the
Mhm.
wedding ring on her hand. Like, put her in the car with you and go. Like,
That's
yeah,
why
I
I
don't
was
know.
hoping that
Yeah,
was going to happen. Yeah.
yeah.
Didn't bother me that much, but I like those sort of journeys. Like
Yeah,
fundamentals of caring, they picked up people along the way.
yeah,
Love it.
exactly. When they rock up at this water slide that I spoke about before, and Ricky jumps into the water straight away, and she jumps out and she says, "Oh, it's hot," and they laugh at her. Like I was like concerned for. I thought, is this water radioactive or what? Why is it so hot? Like I was just like, why are they laughing at her? Did you like understand why they thought that was so funny?
Oh, that was because she did something silly. Like that was
Okay,
them
that's
just
what it
getting
was.
off the road. How is this a bad scene?
It's a bad scene. I was concerned for her that she was going to die of radioactive poisoning.
Okay, well at least it got you thinking.
Yeah, too
Are
much.
you annoyed that she didn't? Like,
Well, she's off. She probably walked a mile away from the car, and she's probably died out in the middle of nowhere. And we didn't even get the closure of that. That she died because she had radioactive poisoning.
and that's why you didn't like that scene.
Correct. And I didn't get why they were laughing at her. I thought that was mean.
I thought it was there was a nice little camaraderie between them.
Hmm, okay. Yeah. Oh wow. The boat story between Will and Tom, and how Will sort of you know comes clean when he's on his deathbed and says, Sam was the one driving it, and she was drunk and I took the blame. Like, do we really need to? Like, I don't get what that whole idea. Like, he was protecting her, but I don't know. I just didn't like that boat analogy. I didn't mean anything to me at all.
Okay, so firstly, it wasn't an analogy. It was
Oh,
like
sorry.
a thing that
True.
happened. But
Well, no, true.
it was breaking down the walls of their relationship, Tom and Will. But it was also showing that this is a guy that will do anything for his daughter. He will even face the scariest person in their life, which is the dad, and lie and take the blame. And it broke down the walls of Tom and Will's relationship at a pretty. I almost put that in my good scenes because I thought it was a nice scene.
But if he cares about her so much, why throw her under the bus just before he dies? So then he's dying thinking that his daughter's lied to him the whole time.
I don't. Do you think that was the vibe that Tom got out of that?
Well, that's the vibe I'm getting from this movie because I'm vibing completely up the wrong tree. I think.
Okay, yep. You're starting to sound like this
It's-
review that I read.
but these are all things from the movie that annoyed me. And it's because they didn't explain anything. If they had actually explained something to me, I probably wouldn't have thought this way because I was just trying to question everything that was happening.
Okay,
And
that one didn't need explaining. I don't think.
and finally, you like these, but I thought all the car chases were shit.
Well, I guess if you didn't like that, then yeah, you're up against it.
yeah, yeah. All right, good. That's me done. So yeah, obviously, a lot of the things that I thought are probably me just being nitpicky because I just wasn't into this film, and it just confused me, like completely confused me. I had
There's a
no
couple of
idea what was
nitpicks
going on.
there. I try to get to a point now where if I don't like something, like I got to think on it and I go, okay, I really didn't like that, but yeah, some of those things didn't seem that bad, and some of them were actually kind of important. But
Well,
yeah,
I write these down not thinking that I'm going to dislike these scenes, but when I go back over my notes and look at them, I'm like, oh, this could have
yeah,
been a good moment.
okay,
And I'm like, oh, nah, actually, what was that?
okay, okay.
So that's where. From, all right, well, what's this one trying to say? What are some themes or some ideas?
It's similar to something we've had before with the whole length that we'll go to and the decisions that we'll make in these situations. But I think the main thing that you take out of a film like this is it discusses the whole idea of whoever adapts first basically survives in these situations. And you notice really early on when those crooks were trying to get the car, and he's like, oh, this guy just called me a slut. Tom pulls that gun straight away, and at that point in time, that's like, whoa, this guy just pulled a gun, because they were already trying to make the most of a bad situation, and they got completely one-upped by Tom pulling out a gun, because
Hmm.
this is a guy who's understanding the situation, he's adapting quickly. And you see people throughout it lying and cheating and stealing and killing, and they're always the ones who come out on top, right? So you've got a guy who's killed a cop, taken the car, he's come on top of on top of the cop. People who steal their gas, they get killed. If you didn't kill them, then you lose. So it's basically Will gets out of this at the end because he kills a guy, and
Hmm.
at the end, it's a, if you don't adapt to this situation, you die, and it's not really trying to say anything more than that. Good people aren't going to make it if we come to the apocalypse.
I mean, in 24 hours, or when it's all started turning pretty crazy pretty quickly. This whole survival of the fittest, almost, I guess.
And you
Uh,
see it in a lot of things, like even like Walking Dead and that movie we did,
mm,
Cargo, a few weeks back.
yeah.
That that guy who was just a really really bad dude survived because as soon as things went to shit, he decided he was going to capitalize on it, and that's the people who make it in these
Mm,
worlds.
mm. Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether it was trying to say that humans are destroying the world a little bit as well. Just
Mm. Oh,
I
yep,
was so
yep.
confused with the whole idea, and there's a little bit too about these two men that are, it's almost like they're saving a damsel in distress, and they're both wanting to be good fathers. They're both doing this because they want to be a good father, one way or another.
Mm.
Um, future father and obviously present father. All right, what did you take away from this one?
Look, it's funny just talking about it now. I like because I'm going to remember this film as one that never really quite got there. But I've felt this obligation in the past 24 hours to go into bat for it. So, like, whilst I
That's
sound
good.
like I'm really trying to defend it, like this was just an okay film for me. But I just don't want everyone to be shit canning it as much as they are, because I don't think it was that bad. Because to me, it was a comfortable journey, and I thought some of the action scenes are pretty good. I think it would have looked good on the big screen, no doubt. And with that said, though, I wouldn't rush to recommend it to anyone, because the reasons that I liked it were probably more personal and more visceral than anybody else. And I can understand why it's sitting at a 2.1 on Letterboxd. But I all of a sudden, I thought it when I was reading these reviews, and I think it more now I'm talking to you. I feel this obligation to
Stand up
defend
for
it.
it.
Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be defended. I'm certainly not going to say, hey, if you don't like this film, you're an idiot. But I don't know. I just think it's copping a raw deal. And I know my mate's going to listen to this podcast, and he's going to be like, MJ, you're an idiot. You're an idiot for saying anything good about this movie.
He's probably going to say the same thing about me because he'd be like, everything I've said was complete rubbish anyway.
I'd be curious to catch up with him. What did you take away from this film?
Yeah, don't bother with it.
Yeah.
If you won't feel good walking away from this, because to me nothing in this was solved, and that's my biggest issue with this, is that there was no resolution for anything, and I need that a little bit. Like, I don't mind a cliffhanger, I don't mind open for interpretation endings, but to me this one, it was too ambiguous with no clear directive of where you should actually be thinking. So that's
Yep.
my take.
Yep.
Did you
Fair enough.
go on IMDb at all to check anyone out?
I did.
Mm,
I went on for Ricky, who's played by Grace Dove, as we've
mm,
spoken about already. But she looked familiar, but I didn't recognize her for this role, because she was actually in The Revenant as Leonardo DiCaprio's wife. I didn't
mm.
recognize her from that, but she was in that, and I've seen her in that, and it's kind of, you see photos like, oh yeah, she looks completely different than what she does in this film. But
Business. Good.
there you go. How about you?
So no, yeah, no, I didn't jump on at all. I didn't. apart from Forrest Whitaker, who I already know. The others didn't ring a bell for anything. So
Yeah.
no, I didn't get on. All right, it's time for us to ask each other some questions that we may have. So what have you got to ask me?
Yeah, I got a few actually.
Oh, good.
You were kind of talking about this one before. I was gonna jump into my question, but we're here already. So, do you think that Sam being pregnant worked better as stakes for Will to get back to her, or for something for Will and Tom to kind of share together, which they eventually did when he was dying?
Yeah, but um, they reveal that she's already told Tom that she's pregnant, so he had plenty of opportunities to bring that up earlier. And I guess he mellows a bit, so then it becomes a bonding sort of thing. But um, yeah, it's a very good question, and I probably don't have a proper answer for it because I think that it wouldn't have mattered for Tom no matter what he was. It didn't matter whether his daughter was pregnant. He just wanted to see her safe.
But as an
Um,
audience member, do you? Because to me, I said it. I don't think that they created the stakes well enough. And if they were trying to do that with Sam being pregnant, it didn't change anything. He could have been going back to his girlfriend or his pregnant girlfriend. It actually didn't change much. They just didn't set that up like they did as well in like a movie like Caliber.
mm,
Um, but I do feel like there was that nice moment when Will and Tom did get to share that moment of understanding that he's going to be a father, and that kind of worked a lot more for me than the fact that he was, she was pregnant and she was on her own.
yeah.
And I was curious to see whether that was similar for you.
Yeah, I think that idea of fatherhood was something that they connected with. I guess if that's I
Mm.
guess that's what you're sort of asking. That
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
mentioned that in the themes because that was what they finally bonded on was being a father. I guess.
mm.
Hmm. Good. All right. What else?
Um, yeah. Why do you think that? And there's a boring answer to this, and I think it is the boring answer. But why do you think Will burnt up the car with Tom in it?
I've got that as a question as well. I said,
Okay,
why did he pour the fuel in the car in Tom's body? Like, was this a zombie film and I just didn't know that, and they wanted you to think there were zombies there as well, like all the other things they wanted you to think, like
I'd
that.
never
That was
considered that.
that was my only thought was you've got these ideas where they've said, could have been a nuclear bomb. It could have been, some experiment to erase irrational behavior. It could have been North Korea and China together. It could have been storms. It could have been heat. It could have been earthquakes. It could have been any of these things. So why not throw in zombies too?
I,
That
I
was,
just I just figured it was some sort of burial, respectful burial for him, but I still didn't think it was necessary. It was almost like, hey, we can have a really nice scene where he's setting
yeah,
him alight and saying goodbye, but because you know how you do the classic, put his body on the water and let him float away.
yeah.
But yeah, I just thought it was weird.
I completely agree. Well, the same sort of thing. So they keep saying that the air in Canada is so good, and he gets to Seattle, and the air is really bad. Vancouver's only a 2.5 hour drive from Seattle. So how is that? How is it so different?
Maybe it's not Jesse.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
hunch would suggest it's not, but yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Anything else you want to ask?
Yeah, do you? I sort of spoke of this before as well, but do you think that every time they sort of bumped into, especially on the bridge, let's say, do you think these are just little clans or colonies that are taking over the cities, and they're people that have just adapted really quickly to the dire straits that they're in, and have just been like, we run this town now. You ain't coming in, you ain't coming out. You're on our terms. Is that what you think it was?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I guess there's individual groups, and you obviously see a town that's gathered together as well.
Yeah,
So yeah, maybe just these little pockets of different sorts of organizations that are working together. I guess. In
yeah.
different ways. Yeah.
Some of them a lot more insidious than others.
Yep. Yeah. A lot more. Yeah. People
And
with.
finally, so finally, I guess we could talk about the ending here because I was going to
Mhm.
say, did you like the ending? That final shot.
So you've got the clouds that are chasing them as they drive off. Yeah. So
Firstly, thought it looked great. I thought they did a really good job of that.
hmm. Well,
Do you not?
yeah, I get it, but it looked like the cloud sort of backed a bit down as they drove a little bit further off.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So is this like a love cloud, and it's like pushed back because they feel this love between the two?
Well, I don't. I didn't
I don't
consider
know.
that.
That's where I'm at with this. That's what I'm trying to think of something. That's what I came up with.
I don't. I'm not overthinking it to that point. Here's my theory is that this is a form of global warming slash weather going wrong slash the world basically calling it quits. That's kind of my take on everything that's going on because the way you see things happening, it didn't feel like an attack. but I think there's enough evidence to suggest it could be. But my take on this film, and I feel pretty strongly about it to enjoy the film in this respect, was that it was like a weather thing, global warming, and the title of "This Is the End," sorry, how it ends, makes me think that that's what they're alluding to. This is how it ends. It's all over after this, and them driving away from that ash cloud or whatever you want to call it would have been a bit if it had have engulfed them and then ended. I would have understood it, but I probably wouldn't have liked it as much. The fact that they got away makes me think that they're going to survive for a little bit longer. And I think this is how it ends. I think we're done. I think the world's going to whatever it's going to happen to it. But how many pockets of people can survive in certain areas at certain times? Who knows? Like
Mm.
how it actually ends specifically, I don't know, and I'm
Yeah.
intrigued. I'm intrigued by that, and as much as I think the whole world will hate this, I would love to see a sequel where it's like a year from now, and some pockets of people have survived this world kind of exploding, and and then what happens? I'm just curious. This film got me thinking that way, and that's how I think it ends. So
Okay.
it's going to keep
Good.
happening. There's going to be these little explosions and water and tidal waves and earthquakes. All this kind of stuff's going to keep happening. It's going to happen all over the world. But you might be in a certain pocket at a certain time that it doesn't hit it, and then you got to keep moving and keep adjusting. And they, for the time being, are still around.
Good. Yeah. Well, yeah. I like that idea that we don't know how it ends because I don't even know how it started either. So, yeah, that's
I don't know. That
such
was
a
just always my take. I just kind of
yeah.
thought
No,
that
it's
was what
good.
was happening, and I didn't get any evidence to suggest that it wasn't. And when it finished, I was like, okay, that's what happened.
Cool. Good. We've covered a lot of the stuff I wanted to ask as well, so I'm happy with that. The only other thing I wanted to ask was we see this scene where, Will gets up early when they're at the house at the end and he sees Jeremiah playing with his car. And
Yep.
I
Yeah.
was thinking like, so why was this? And because it seemed like that, Will and Sam could drive off away fine, or is this putting another sort of thing in the back of your mind that as soon as they drive off, it's going to break down at some stage and they're going to be engulfed by that flame because he's
Well, that
fiddled
was
with the car.
100% in the back of my mind. Was it in the back of
Yeah.
your
Okay.
mind?
Yeah. All right. Good.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I'm like, it's all of a sudden it's just going to stop.
Yeah. Cool.
Maybe just another red herring.
Yeah. Just lots and lots. All right.
Or in the sequel, we find out that he put a bomb in
Oh God.
because he was a
Maybe.
software engineer, so he'd be good with that kind of stuff.
True. True. Let's hope there's no sequel. All right. Time to wrap this one up. So this is where we each give the film a rating out of 5. So MJ, give us your rating for this one.
You could call the sequel "How It Ended" and then give you all the explanations that you needed.
How it starts. Go back and give me a prequel.
Oh, that would come through in. Oh yeah, we can get a prequel and we'll get a sequel and a
Yeah.
prequel. This does work well as a trilogy. I agree.
Trilogy. Okay.
Um,
Good. I'll get.
Look, for me, despite its flaws, and they certainly were flaws, there was just this level of comfort to being taken along this journey for me, and I'm pretty easily satisfied with a simple adventure narrative, and I do love the idea of picking up strays along the way. So sue me, but it kind of worked for me. So I'm well aware that I'm being generous, but I'm giving it 3 stars.
Nice, good. All right, well, yeah, I'm obviously pretty different. Not much happened in this film for me. I thought it was a bit repetitive with the car trips, I guess, and the issues they faced along the way. I thought the characters I didn't really care for, and this overall idea of destruction without any explanation or a little bit of insight into what they were actually up against really, really frustrated me. And the ending, like we just spoke about, it doesn't resolve anything. We don't know how it ends, so I find this very hard to recommend, and I'm giving it a 1 out of 5. Which gives us an average of 2 out of 5 on Flix Forum.
I want you tonight, Jesse, at some point, and I could be wrong here, but read back what you just read in your rating,
Mm.
and you could say that you were talking about the movie Cloverfield.
No, no, because I had a better connection with the characters, which, like you have in this one, and it's made you enjoy it more.
I don't think I really did have that much of a connection with the characters. But okay, I'll give you the characters for Cloverfield. That's fair. But everything else that you got annoyed with is what happened in Cloverfield.
I liked the Cloverfield. I liked the idea of getting back to Earth and all that sort of stuff. That I don't know. Yeah,
Getting back
completely
to
different.
Earth. But was that part of the first Cloverfield?
Oh, sorry. I thought we were talking about the one we spoke about on Netflix,
No,
the
no, I'm talking
Carol
about
one.
actual Cloverfield.
Oh, the original Cloverfield. The
Because there's a
original
lot of
Cloverfield.
similarities.
Okay, sorry. Yep. The original Cloverfield. I didn't care. Yeah, okay. I didn't care about the characters too much, and then the original one. But I liked that film for when it came out. It was something different. I liked the whole the build up of that film with their campaigning and their advertising. Yeah, completely different films. Anyway, we need to move on.
Okay.
You're not gonna sell me on this one. So we're on social
Okay.
media. We've got Twitter. We've got Facebook. We've got Instagram. Hit us up. Question I just want to pop up there this week is: can you give us a good end of the world film recommendation that we could fill our time in with? Something that's a little
Good
bit better
one.
than this one. So
Ooh, these final hours.
Aussie one.
Mm.
Yeah, good. Off the top of my head, I haven't got one, so I'll have a think about that and see if I can post something myself on our post.
Yeah, what else?
All
There's
right.
been there's been plenty.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, I completely agree. There are a lot of good ones. So please subscribe to us if you can. Give us a good rating on whatever platform you're listening to us. We are back again next week, and next
Hmm.
week we have a comedy. It's from
Ooh,
2018. It's called Father of the Year. It's directed by
okay.
Tyler Spindle. Stars David Spade, Nat
Oh no.
Faxon, Joey Bragg, Matt Shively, Bridget Mendler, and Jared Sandler. So
Okay.
this is a Happy Madison
Right.
production, from what I gather.
Well, it's
Yeah,
got
so
Jared Sandler. What's that? The nephew, and it's got David Spade.
David Spade,
Okay.
yeah. So let's get on board for that one, and we'll be back with a comedy next week. Hopefully, it provides us with some laughs.
That was good chat, mate. I know we haven't disagreed in a movie for some time, and if we have, it hasn't been this stark. So
Nah,
that was really good,
yeah, I feel like a bit of an idiot with my arguments, but I just didn't like this film.
mate. Your arguments is what the whole world thinks. So
Yeah,
maybe I need to
I'm
watch it again. I think maybe I've given it too much credit.
I'm looking forward to going and reading some of the reviews of this one, just to check out and see if I've got any similar thoughts to some other people.
You probably
Um,
do. Go rewatch Cloverfield as well.
I will. All right. Well, good catching up, and yeah, thanks for not hating me too much for our disagreements today.
Mate, I love it. That's why I want to talk about it, or else I'm just going to sit here thinking it's a 5 star. Nah. No, it was good. It's really
Good.
good.
All right. I will see you next week.
See you, mate.